So Ken, start off, you've just visited a college, Waltham Forest College, and you visit a lot of further and higher education institutions around the London area. Have you sensed an Olympic vibe or a vibe from young people to get involved with London 2012?
I have confessed that this is our 23rd borough visit, and this is the first where anyone in the student audience has raised the question of the Olympics. And I think, unless you're one of the 5 Olympic boroughs around East End, I mean, when we've been, farther parts of London, it isn't a factor. It will begin to pick up as the media picks up on it. But I think as well, given what we heard about tourist numbers, the weekend, what struck me about going to Athens was how empty the city was. And if after all the sort of worries and concerns about can the system cope, if all the normal tourists just don't come, it'll be really easy to get around London. It'll be the quietest August of our lifetimes. So we have no way of knowing. We didn't bid for the Olympics to have one good year of tourism. We bid for the Olympics to get $8 billion of investment in infrastructure in the East End of London. And I always knew no mayor would ever be able to persuade any government to put $8 billion into anywhere in London, because the general sort of feeling London's got everything already. And people outside London, politicians from local councils or MPs from outside London, never get to the East End. They have no idea about the scale of poverty there. And so this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Just going to say, do you think that will make a real difference in regeneration?
If you actually look, we've got the London Overground, now rated the best railway in Britain. We only got it because of the Olympics. We only got the DLR extension to Woolwich because of the Olympics. We only got the DLR extension up to Stratford City. Stratford City itself, that great shopping development, would never have happened. You couldn't have justified, you couldn't have won a CPO on the land assembly. Given the state it was in, it was only the Olympics that guaranteed Stratford City was going to be viable, and that's brought 10,000 jobs to the most run-down place in southern England. So it's been beyond my wildest dreams, But the real thing that people don't understand yet is the infrastructure we put in. I went and saw Yvette Cooper, who was the minister responsible, and said, look, why don't we put in the infrastructure that will cope with the development of the land to the south as well? And with Crossrail having a station at Stratford and another one at the Excel Centre, the Custom House, you've got, after the Olympic Games, the land south of the Olympic site down to the River Thames. There's room for 50,000 jobs and 40,000 homes. So you've got virtually at the heart of Europe's leading city, the biggest potential development anywhere in Western Europe. So there's a generation of development to come on the back of this. And if the mayor was sort of alert to this, and you get round and reopen our drive to get jobs out of China and India and Brazil, you could most probably sell a lot of that land and bring a lot of investment to London.
And just staying on that regeneration, as part of that, jobs will be created, and jobs for young people as well. Would you, as a message to young people, would you say they need to seize the opportunity and maybe take advantage of what could be on their doorstep potentially?
Absolutely. We work very closely with the 5 Olympic boroughs and the LDA to make sure that local colleges were providing the building courses so local people could get the jobs. Now that hasn't panned out, and that's largely because it's the sort of thing the mayor has to chase. Every month the mayor needed to be saying to the ODA, how many local people have been employed on the site in this last month? And that wasn't happening, and of course I think massively underperformed because of it. And certainly on Crossrail, we need to ensure that a lot more Londoners actually get the jobs that are going to come with the construction of Crossrail, which really, the stations are mainly getting underway now, but the tunnelling will start end of next year. And the Crossrail scheme, which the mayor had when I was mayor, had a much more direct control over, and still does if he chooses to exercise it. We opened a tunnelling academy on the border between Newham and Redbridge, because we found there are only about 500 people left in Britain who'd ever worked on a tunnel, and mainly they were over 55, because we just don't have that constant flow of infrastructure that other countries have. So what we've done, set up this academy to train people in tunnelling and station construction. And of course, if we can, get governments to commit to Crossrail 2 and Crossrail 3, and of course the Super are all going ahead. I mean, there's work to come out of that, and you just got to. I mean, I think in Crossrail they're specifying in the contracts, firms bidding for the work have to guarantee X number of apprenticeships per millions of pounds.
Yeah, and that as itself, you were part of the bidding process for the Olympics in the first place. Do you think that is? It's crucial, the legacy to it, not just the Olympic legacy, but the infrastructure afterwards lives on for people to...
Oh no, the infrastructure's all taken care of. We got a lot of things right. I mean, so far, there hasn't been a fatality on the entire Olympic site. Now, scale of building going on there, that's a remarkable achievement, because we got the interpretation of health and safety correct. But we should have had the same relentless pressure on getting local people onto that site in work. I mean, Newham's done very much better with the Stratford City development, the Westfield site. And I mean, Frank Lowy and his team, Frank Lowy's the owner of Westfield. I mean, you can meet them, you sit down and do that sort of deal. And there was no resistance in the ODA to employing local people. If you don't chase it all the time, it don't happen. I mean, if we hadn't had a fortnightly meeting with the staff preparing the congestion charge and pushing them on all their assumptions and challenging them for 2.5 years, it wouldn't have worked properly. When they opened Terminal 5, and the fiasco where the staff at Terminal 5 couldn't access the parking machines, and huge delays and everything else, you just realise all those overpaid members of the BAA board hadn't done their job, which was to test and challenge all that.
And just taking it slightly away from London to Australia, but referring back to young people, you meet a lot of young people across London. Do you get a growing sense of people striving to be better academically and
people? I mean, what's striking? Kids are really working much harder than my generation did, and they had real concern. I mean, all these meetings we've done, none of these kids is certain of getting a job or a home, and it is literally the case that this is the first generation of Englishmen and women that will live a worse life than their parents, and this is a damning indictment of the mistakes over the last 30 years of all governments, and not investing, not doing as much training as we should. I mean, when we opened an office in Shanghai to promote London and attract inward investment, the local woman we appointed to run it was telling me the 9 years of her schooling was 7 in the morning till 6 at night. 9 years of it. She said she never worked harder in any job than she did when she was at school. If you look at the Chinese family budget, the biggest single item, more than housing or travel or food, is supplementary education for their kids. That's the average Chinese family budget. I mean, and so you've got to think, this is the world where we're going to be competing for the rest of the century, and we need to match those levels of investment in infrastructure and in education, or we'll just continue to slip behind.
Yeah, sure, and just finally, just quickly, what advice would you give to young people who want to further their careers and are looking to move into work, from your experience?
I mean, my best bit of advice would be, get a foreign language, preferably Mandarin. As a second choice, Portuguese, because Brazil will overtake Japan fairly rapidly and be the 4th largest economy in the world. And if possible, try and get maths. Sure. I mean, if you can understand maths, there are so many openings into so many areas, and maths is an area where we've really been poor in Britain. as they under all governments, all through my lifetime. Maths, that's the way we teach it. When I became a politician, I virtually had to teach myself maths so I could understand balance sheets, to say nothing of polling figures. And if you understand maths, you understand economics. Almost everybody teaches maths via economics by maths. And if you haven't got it, learning it is so much more difficult any other way. So maths and a foreign language, the two most important subjects you could have as a base. I have to say I haven't been able to persuade my own kids to do this. I mean, they've gone off to do politics.